Hi, Tracy. Welcome to this video clip.
Hi, Robert.
I'm so glad you're joining me, especially to talk about what we're talking about because it's fun and it is something that I love a lot, which is children's picture books and bibliotherapy, and using books in this way in my therapy practice. And this is what we're going to talk about today, specifically a book that you wrote.
Oh, we both have a copy.
Quick time. We're going to talk about this book so people know what it's all about and why they may want to get a copy of this and use it with the kids that they work with, right? So, yes, Twig Needs Time is the title by Tracy Turner-Bumberry, who is here to talk about this, the author herself. So let's jump right in. How'd you come up with this concept? What's going on here?
Sure. So, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge animal lover, and I seem to take on many animals throughout my lifetime. They seem to find me. And so the two characters in this book are actually real characters. So to discuss Carly first, Carly in this book is very social, very outgoing. Some may call her loud, but she's really vibrant, would probably be how she would describe herself. Very excitable, really looking for a friend and is ready to have one. And she's based off of my real dog, Carly, who looks exactly like her. And actually, I have both of their pictures on the back.
Nice.
And a little special thing about Carly, Carly is an animal assisted play therapy dog through Risa Van Fleet and Tracy's program. And she has that personality. She just has this amazing ability to be so friendly with children and loves to go to work. However, when she comes home, she's that vibrant, naughty, loud, effervescent. She just has a big personality. And then Twig, so I moved to Georgia in 2019. And within a month of being here, I noticed a very skinny, terrified cat on my property, which is Twig.
Nice.
And I began feeding him, making a housing station for him, a food station for him, fed him every day. If we went out of town, I found people to come take care of him. He's a very spoiled feral cat. We had him trapped and neutered and released. I don't think he'd ever be able to be a house cat. He's just too terrified of people. So fast forward 4 years, 4 years of doing this. And then all of a sudden, true story, as I'm getting ready to feed him one morning, he starts purring and brushing up against my legs. 4 years.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I think I did it like say something like, wow, Twig, you just needed time, buddy. I named him that early on. And ever since then, it's been a few months since that time. Ever since then, the minute I come out in the morning, he's there. He's following me, he's wanting to be pet. And so I thought one day that they were such a great example, the two of them, of
Mhm.
how they both have such different needs, but both want friends. It just looks so different. So I thought that would be a really cute concept for a children's book, especially not wanting either of them to be shown in a negative light.
Right.
Like Twig's too shy, Twig needs to open up, Carly's too hyper. I really wanted both of them to shine in just who they naturally are.
Right. And that kind of gets into my question, what's the book about? Like what's the main idea concept here involving these two characters?
Sure. So both Robert and I were AutPlay traders. Obviously, Robert is an AutPlay founder. And we both have been very committed, especially the past few years, as we've learned more on how to be, neurodiversity affirming and how to be a neurodivergent ally. And one of the concepts we became very familiar with and we talk about in trainings is the double empathy concept, sometimes
Yeah.
called double empathy problem. Basically, in the past, it was seen as if the neurodivergent needed to show empathy
Mhm.
and needed to change, mask, modify in order to help the neurotypical feel more comfortable.
Right.
And this concept has taught us, no, this is a two-way street. The neurotypical needs to show empathy as well, and both of them can navigate this relationship and decide what helps each person feel comfortable while still being in a friendship. So that's a very important concept to me personally. I work with my clients with and on a lot, making sure I'm being an ally for them so they feel like their needs are being met. They're not having to navigate in any way they don't want to. And so I thought this would be a cuter, more whimsical way of thinking about this concept. So in it, Carly wants to be friends with Twig, and if we show pages in this book, Carly wants to be friends with Twig, and she's like, right by him and trying to get his attention. And so, here she is. She's like prancing and she's so
Yeah.
excited. And, Twig is running away from her. So the
Right.
whole book is a study in a sense of double empathy. What can Carly do to show she's still interested while giving him space? But if you look very carefully, you notice Twig is doing some things too from his, distance and from his safety. So that is basically the concept of it.
I think that's great. And I want to point out that you do talk about that a little bit in the back of the book. And you did something with this children's book that is kind of my favorite thing to do. And that is you make a clear point for what's happening in this book that can translate to meaning for kids or for therapists who use it with kids. But you don't spell it all out where it isolates to only like one group. There's a generalizability here. I remember the first time I read it, I thought about, oh, Twig is like autistic and Carly's like an ADHDer, right? But it doesn't say that. These characters are clearly, their personalities are clearly defined, but it leaves it open for like maybe kids who read this to find themselves in one of these characters or in this situation without any specific label being put on it. And I really like that because that feels very bibliotherapy like to me because you can read this to the child and there's clear messages here of relationship building, of understanding differences, of empathy. But each child who maybe is accessing this book can glean from it what they relate to and what's going on with them. And I really like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's been an interesting part. I had an idea. I think it's an interesting concept when you have an idea, but then you talk to others who have read it and they've had such different ideas, still
Right.
based on the concept, but
Yeah.
such different. One of the examples was I have actually two examples that I was told I would be allowed to share. One of them is a parent example. A parent reached out to me and said they read this book to their child. And as they read it, they literally started to cry because they realized they were Carly.
Mm.
And they have been shamed a lot in their life for being too much. And how in this book, it was joyous. that Carly was this way. It wasn't a, you bad dog, you settle down. And so that really resonated with her. This idea of you were able to show such empathy for both of them. And that was really touching for that parent. And then the other example I had was I found out a therapist has been not necessarily reading this book to their clients, perhaps they are, but giving this book to parents to read to
Mhm.
show how the therapeutic process takes time. Never
Right?
thought of that before. And so she said that she's got a smaller caseload. She bought several books. She's giving this to for the parents to borrow. And she's saying, this mirrors the therapeutic process. You may feel like Carly, hey, what are you doing? What did you do in therapy? What's going on? How you feeling? Whereas you may have more of a twig child who's like, okay, I can't be rushed in this process. I'd never thought of that before.
It really is written that way. Again, which is like there are some other children's books that pop into my head that are written that way, where you really have this ability. There's a clear message. There's some clear messages, but you have this generalized ability for it, the messages to apply to different kids, different scenarios, just like you said about therapy, maybe about a child and their peers, maybe about a parent and their child. Like when you write in that way, it provides that opportunity, right? Which is kind of just a little different than maybe a book that is like, this is Carly. Carly is this. Carly does
Mhm.
this because she's like this, which
Right.
books too, but they are definitely like, okay, this is going to apply to just this one child, right? And this one situation. So I think that's something that's really special about this book. And so you've already mentioned kind of who it's for. Could be for parents, could be for therapists. I mean, that's certainly how I read it. How can I use this in my child therapy and my play therapy? Uh, but it's got some universal appeal here.
Mhm. And I wrote it, it is in rhyme. So one of my favorite things to do is to write poetry. It's you show a lot of vulnerability for anyone out there who does write poetry when you decide to put that out there in the world.
Yeah,
That is that is an extremely vulnerable act. So any of you out there that have done that, I can empathize with you on that. And so it is written in poetry, and there's some silly,
yeah,
little fanciful parts to it as well as some serious parts. But one of the things I took a lot of time to do, and so for another group this could be for, is for anyone who does a lot of reading to children. I didn't just write the poetry, which is what I usually do, but I spent a lot of time reading it out loud and changing quite a bit because I wanted it to flow. I wanted it to sound a very particular way, like a
mm,
soothing way. When a parent or another adult or anyone was reading it to a child. So I think that's a nice piece to it too. It works really well as a read aloud type book. I've had quite a few really good responses from teachers who have been reading it
mm.
to their students.
That's excellent. Well, so somebody wants to get a copy. What do they need to do, Tracy? Where can they get it?
The major outlets, I would say Amazon.com is typically where people buy most books pretty regularly. It is also on Barnes and Noble. For booksellers or librarians, it is on Ingram Spark. That tends to be the website that booksellers and librarians use because there is a discount involved and a bulk involved with it. And pretty much anywhere you can buy a book online, it's there. I am currently working on getting it physically in certain locations, but that does take quite a bit of time.
Sure. All right. Twig Needs Time. I definitely recommend it. Definitely for child and play therapists. Get it in your library, get in your playroom so you can have opportunities to use it with your clients. So thanks for sharing, Tracy. Thanks for creating this, and thanks for doing this video with me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I love being able to talk about it, so I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
I will
Absolutely.
say the second book will be it's in the works. And
Nice.
so, yes, so this is called book 1A, but the second one will be book 1B, and it's called Carly Needs Now.
Wow. Are you just
And it's
dropping little like surprise for us, an exclusive?
a little nugget. And so it will pretty much take place in like the same time as this one, but we're
Okay.
going to switch it around and kind of show what's going on in Twig's head
Mm-hmm.
with this animal that needs now. So it's going to be a little companion to the Twig Needs Time.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Please come back and watch more videos. Of course, love it when you hit like on this video, subscribe to the AutPlay YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. See you next
Thank
time.
you.